Welcome back to the Current Comfort and Coffee podcast. I am one of your hosts, Randy Dallaire, HVAC, licensed HVAC contractor, boiler licensed contractor in the state of Michigan, as well as electrical contractor. And I'm joined here by
John. I am the master electrician over at Dallaire Heating, Cooling, Electrical, and I handle all of the electrical pieces.
And today's coffee sponsor is Big Apple Bagels in Davison. Thank you, Pam. Hope your leg's doing well. Brought this up in the last one. She broke her leg, and I feel bad. And I hope she's doing better.
I saw her with her broken leg, and I couldn't remember whether she had a broken leg the last time I had.
That's what you said last week.
Yeah.
I thought about making a short of that and then just sending it to Pam.
Yeah. Pam, I saw Pam one morning a couple weeks ago, and she recognized me, I think, as a Dallaire person. And she asked me how my day was. It was super nice. But I don't think she remembered my name, and that's okay.
I do, John.
Yeah, my name's John. Also, I do that too, where I'm like, okay, I know names are important to people. I'm going to acknowledge their existence while trying not to say a name that may or may not be correct.
Right. So. Yeah, that's one of the most embarrassing things I do is when I call somebody by the wrong name very confidently. Like, hey, what's up, Jack? And it's not Jack.
My name's Joel.
Or just Steve or something completely unrelated. To the point where I've just started calling people by nicknames that I don't remember the names of. Like I now that I know some of these people better, I do know their actual names. But in the there's one gentleman who runs a Flip Flop 5K. Well, Mr. Flip Flops. I know it's Johnny Be Good. I know who he is, but when I see him, I'm like, Mr. Flip Flop.
I took this management class that was like one of the things they emphasized was that people's names are important to them, more important than most people realize. So actually forgetting their name or saying it wrong is more detrimental to you.
Yeah, it's like an insult. Like
then
you don't know
than even that person realizes.
Yep.
So one of the tricks they teach you is a lot of the class was like tricks in remembering people's names and how to initiate conversations out of nowhere, because really what you're doing is catering to other people's egos, right? It's people like to talk about themselves. You can talk to you can sit there and just ask prodding questions to get somebody to talk about themselves. And at the end of that conversation, they'll say, you are a great conversationalist, even though you've never said a damn thing.
Yep.
Most of the, So anyways, I digress.
I feel like that goes like hand in hand with the idea and realization that most people are not thinking about you most of the time. It's one of those things that we are constantly worried about, how people feel about us and what, that embarrassing thing you did in 6th grade or whatever it was, and nobody thinks about that. Nobody cares. They're thinking about their own stuff. They're thinking about their own embarrassing events from 6th grade. They're not thinking about you anymore than you think about them,
Right.
So, because you're not thinking about the embarrassing thing that they did, you're thinking about the embarrassing thing that you did. And we all have embarrassing things. We all have moments where we mess up or feel like we're not confident enough or good enough or whatever. And it's people just want to be perceived as special and worthwhile and want to be paid attention to.
Well, going back to the nickname thing, they teach you a lot of like association tactics. So, associating something that rhymes with that name.
Yeah, mnemonic devices.
In order to memorize somebody's name quickly. I had a boss who would give people nicknames, and he would, based on just his interactions, and that would help him remember their name. But also, I think the secondary benefit to that was that people like being given a nickname as long as it's appropriate.
Yeah. I don't have a nickname.
You don't have a nickname at all?
I don't think anybody's ever given me a nickname. My name's basically a nickname, Randy. Like
Randall.
That's not my full name. I have had people call me Randall, though, if that counts as a nickname, even though it's the full version of my actual name.
I'm saying you're in trouble.
Remember Randall from Recess, the cartoon series? Yeah, he's like all hunched over. I'm telling Miss Finster.
I'll have to think of a nickname for you.
All the Randys and Randalls that are like produced out in the world are just terrible characters, and I get to be the one. I'm named after a guitarist, Randy Rhoads, but I don't represent him. I represent just Randy's in general, right? So there's like Randall, the lizard monster from Monsters Inc. He's also a douche. Think of a Randy that's on a TV show that's a good guy that people like. Yep. Yeah.
I'm drawing nothing.
Name 3. Yeah, there's
maybe somebody in the comments.
Yeah, name a good Randy other than me. Don't name me.
See, I'm triggered now. Trying to think of one. Yeah,
there's no good Randys.
Yeah.
I'm changing the tide. I'm turning the page on Randy's here. Trying to be a good Randy.
Yeah, I'm all turned around. I forgot what we were even talking about.
Names and mnemonic devices. Nicknames.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was a secondary benefit. I think people like nicknames. I had a nickname once. It was awful. My boss when I was like 18 was a dickwad. So
what was his name? What was his nickname?
He called me Radio.
Radio?
Go ahead and take a guess.
Because you're loud like the radio. Because your dad's on the radio.
Because I'm retarded.
Oh. What's that have to do with radio?
I guess there was some sort of movie. Yeah, I don't know. He was a dick. His name was Carl. I don't give a shit. He was an asshole.
Name one nice Carl.
Yeah. Carl.
Carl. That kills people. Now, I can think of like a few people that have nicknames, and I call like up at the coffee shop. Maddie works there, and I heard a gentleman walking out, and he said, "Goodbye, sunshine." And she's a very like mellow person, you know. Mm-hmm. Also, she's got to be like 20. You know, she's very young. So like for some old middle-aged guy to be calling her sunshine is kind of like, calm down, sir. But he walks out, and I said, "So Sunshine, is that your nickname now?" And she's like, "I guess," you know. So now every time I see her, I say, "Hey, Sunshine," and she smiles every time. I'm like, that makes me feel good. I like being the one that makes her smile when I poke and prod, like make a little joke, rather than her being like uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're not poking her, you're poking him.
That's true. That's true. So. Yeah. But it was obviously meant like you don't smile enough. You know what I mean? And that makes me uncomfortable too. Like, don't talk to her like that. Yeah. I don't like that at all. Anyway, I did have one other nickname when I worked at Davison Heating. You remember Top Gun? Goose.
No.
You never watched Top Gun?
Never seen Top Gun.
One of the guys, his call sign is Goose. And "Talk to me, Goose" is one of the lines from the movie. And one time Willie Peak, the owner, called me, or I called him, whatever it was. As soon as we got on the phone, he goes, "Talk to me, Goose." And then it just stuck. I was Goose for forever. And it was essentially because I was just one of the wingmen. You know what I mean? I wasn't Top Gun. I was Goose.
Yeah.
So
well, that's a lot nicer than mine.
Yeah, I don't mind that nickname. I mean, it wasn't mean, but it wasn't like made to make fun of me or anything.
I think I've ever really even the boss I had that gave nicknames to everybody never gave me a nickname. I don't know.
You're Big Bad John, dude.
Yeah. No, I made that up when I was super drunk. And I don't know why. I think I had heard the song.
I've never heard that song.
And yeah, I was trashed, and I was forced to give a name to the mug clump that I was like, that's what it is.
It's Big Bad John.
Yeah. And then when a buddy of mine, Kyle, started going there, he would refer to me as Big Daddy, and there was a couple of employees there that called me Big Daddy for a while there. That was kind of cool because we would go with Jaden, and Dad, can I get an ice cream? Yeah, I put in my tab, but you have to refer to me as Big Daddy. And he'd go in there, and you could see his face. It was good.
You have to put it on Big Daddy's tab.
I've never done that with Amanda.
Yeah, not yet.
Now I feel like I would feel uncomfortable. It was okay that other people were doing it, calling me Big Daddy. I don't want to initiate that.
That was my nickname in my phone, not on purpose, but because Noah had gotten his first cell phone, created a contact card called Daddy,
Yeah.
and then Siri just started calling me that. So just I would say, what's my name? And she'd go, your name is Randy, but you told me to call you Daddy.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah. Yeah, you just set your own nickname on your contact card.
I'm going to have so much fun.
You should watch a tips and tricks video on how to use your new iPhone.
Yeah, well, I actually just switched to iPhone like a year ago, and I will never go back. It's such a better piece of technology than any of the Android, even the
It's pretty
expensive
intuitive.
Android phones that I had.
Yeah.
So
I feel like some of the companies I've worked for have provided devices, and obviously it's a little bit cheaper to provide an Android device, especially when you're buying 10 of them or whatever for, everybody in the company.
Yep.
So we'd be provided with these, they're Galaxies or whatever, they're Samsung products or, HTC, something higher quality. That's not like some super cheap piece of equipment. And I just never found it as intuitive, but I've used iOS devices since I was, I don't know, 20, something like that. My first iPhone was the iPhone 4S. Now I've got a 14, 16.
I had a 3. I tried it once, and I hated it at the time. This was way, way back. I mean, and I think what does it for me now is the accessories, right? The watch is so seamless with the the AirPods. When I put them in, they just connect. I don't gotta fuck with Bluetooth settings or the Find My feature. I lose all my shit all the time, and I can look at my watch, hit the button to find my phone, it chirps in the other room, and then it tells me how close I am to it in feet.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. It all works so well, and it's not anything I had with Android. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd be lying if I said that I knew whether Android did or didn't have the same features in a different way. My big point with it was always that Apple OSs are meant to run on Apple hardware. They make the hardware and the software. So the hardware and the firmware, whatever.
Yeah.
So their iOS is designed specifically to work with this equipment, and then they provide that equipment so it just kind of functions, right? Same with the Mac, same with the AirPods. There's no third party integration or anything at that point. A lot of their chips are still made by Samsung or Panasonic. Their cameras are made by probably Panasonic. So it's not like they manufacture all the components, but they do design their stuff to work with the components that they pick specifically.
Yep.
Versus you can get an Android phone that's on par speed wise, camera wise, storage wise, battery wise, that's around the same price that runs Android, and it's fine. It's a good phone. I don't think that there's a problem with that. But you can also get an Android that just is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And then that's you walk away from that thinking like Androids are junk, but that's just the operating system. There's a million phones on the market that run Android, but there's only one brand that uses iOS.
I think what did it for me was I bought one of those Z Folds, right?
Yeah.
Like the almost like foldable screens. And I think I paid I think the phone was like $1,800 or something. It was expensive. And from the day I got it, that thing was a piece of shit. It just, the ratios were off. So there were parts of the screen you couldn't see. There's, like the fold, there was like a space in between the fold where like dust or lint got into, and it was
into
like
little gears.
And it was just like, I mean, from the get, it was just like, man, this is not great. And then I went from that. I think it broke finally, and that's what led. I told it was a company, it was a company account. And I told the guy who runs the assets, I was like, hey, this is broken. I need a new phone for a week while I order another one. And he gave me an Apple, and that was it.
Yeah.
At the end of the week, I'm like, I'm not ordering anything else. So anyways,
yep.
Hopefully Apple sponsors us now.
Yeah. This episode's brought to you by Apple. No. Reach out. Sounds great. All 3 viewers are going to love it. All right. Speaking of viewers, we didn't have any comments on the episodes, but we did have a couple comments on a short that I posted. It was specifically you talking about the like apprentice versus veteran mentality.
Yeah.
Basically like having a career mentality, right? And I
Yep.
played out that video for you before the episode started, so you would have it like fresh in your mind.
These ones are definitely mean. They
Yeah.
have to be. I knew that was going to draw some shit.
Yeah. I mean, you have a differing opinion for sure. So Alex Henderson, I thought about giving these people fake names to make fun of them, but I feel like that's starting a little strong. So I'm just going to, like, this is on TikTok. Alex Henderson said, "You said it yourself. You've seen it in guys that have been doing it forever. It makes no difference. Everyone's making money. Going above and beyond gets you nowhere."
Okay.
And then on YouTube, I feel like these are very similar, so I'll just give you both of them, and then I'll let you respond. This is how the boss views shit, LOL. The guy whose job it is to bitch about people not doing enough, they'll pay you an extra dime to boss people around or do good for few years. That's Donovan's 360.
Okay.
Don Ovens. No.
I feel like those are similar, but I feel like both of them bring some pretty good points to it.
Right. I did respond to Donovan's. I said, "Yep, I can see that. What do you think makes a person working out in the field feel more valued?" Because that's what I really read in that, right? Is that he thinks that somebody out in the field isn't valued because they're asked to produce more.
Yep. So I guess I'll start with the first one. Because I feel like there's a couple things there. The second one being a little more interesting than the first, because the first one, I'm just going to say this. If you've been in people who have been in the field for 20 years are in the field for 20 years for a reason. It's because of their fucking social skills. They treat people like shit. They talk to people like shit, and they don't solve problems. I know these people. I've been at different companies and I've met all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with getting you nowhere. It has to do with the way you behave. It has to do with not just your work, because I will acknowledge that hard work is not what gets people to management level. It's the way you solve problems. It's the way you talk to people. It's the way you respect people. And I would say that hard work has some to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that,
right. You can't be lazy and expect promotions and stuff, right? If you're just sitting around on a job saying, of course you're not getting it.
If you have that veteran mentality, like, you're not going to, like, those things are counterintuitive. They're not going to work together. You're not lazy, and also understand that the job has to get done real quickly, and we're going to do that. But I've seen guys that work real hard, but they're absolute fucking assholes to everybody.
Yeah. Nobody wants that person for a boss.
No, they don't. And so guess what? You will be revered as a super hard worker, but I can't put you in contact with customers. I can't put you, I can't have you interacting with people in the field that are going to quit because you're mean to them. It has nothing to do with working hard.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. I mean, it has a little to do with working hard is a secondary product of what makes a veteran mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like they are two different things that we're talking about here. And I think that they do get like convoluted into one, that like you're a hard worker, therefore you deserve to be in some sort of a management role or come out of the field or whatever. But just because you produced a high quality product, whether it was in an adequate amount of time or not, doesn't mean that you're good at managing, doesn't mean that you're good at organizing, or even good with customers. Like, you can run wires through an empty house all day and be really good at that, but that does not mean I want you to go replace a customer's ceiling fan. That's if the customer is not going to enjoy that interaction, I would not send you on a service call. I would not put you in charge of 3 apprentices if they keep coming back to me and telling me that it sucks to work with you.
Yeah. And you met one of the electricians that I so you already know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's that guy I worked with in the field, and when I became management, he was angry that I became management, and he was smart, he was capable, he worked hard, but he freaked the fuck out over just about everything.
Yep.
He couldn't go onto a job site and just do the thing, make an executive decision. He was a mess of nerves. He didn't interact with customers well. He complained and he whined and he bitched about everything. But if you gave him a specific task and you set him on his way, he did it right. He did it quick. He worked hard all day long. It made not a damn bit of difference when it came to him being management. And it's because he couldn't do any of the things that is required for management. So, I mean, and I guess, addressing the second commenter's comment on
This is how the boss views shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So the boss you're referring to is the foreman.
Yep.
The guy who is helping guide, the actual move the job forward. Right.
Yep.
That does exist. I worked at a company, where I was in the field where the foremen were cruel. I mean, they were mean. They call people out in front of the whole crew and
To embarrass them.
I just to embarrass them. Yeah. That does exist. I can't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a company specific thing. And the reason, and I feel like that's driven by company values,
Mm-hmm.
right? If the company is okay with that, get the fuck out of that company.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. I left that company because I saw that cruelty,
Yeah.
and as like, this is how we do things now, right?
Yeah.
We're going to embarrass employees. We're going to, and they loved him because he made money.
Yeah.
He got the job done because
Yep.
people were scared of him. That is fucked up.
Right.
That's fucked up.
Yep. And I mean, ultimately, the next person that wants that position or a position similar to that wants to be that person, right? They want that position of power. They want to be able to call people names and not have any repercussions because of it. And in a culture like that, it's a nightmare, right?
It is. And it does, honestly, it does exist. And, that I can't deny.
And we got to keep in mind too that the commenter has not met with or worked with us. We work in the field. I worked in the field all week. This week I did duct cleanings, I did service calls, I replaced parts and components, and John was out in the field doing electrical stuff. So we're talking to people that know what it's like to work in the field. I've been in the field for almost 2 decades. I own and operate my own company now, but I'm not to a point where I'm the boss yet, where I'm just sitting behind a desk and wondering why the numbers don't get bigger. I know what it takes to make the numbers bigger, and I know that it's not spending extra time on a job site. It's getting the job done and moving on to the next one. And that's what we were really talking about, was trying to find people who understand that mentality. It is hard sometimes, and you meet them throughout your career, people who know that, like, the faster I can get this done, the faster I can go home to my family, but also the more money the company makes and the more likely we are to be able to get that profit to spend that money on things like advertising or trucks or whatever to make my job easier tomorrow and make more jobs come in so that I have work to do in the future. If I milk this job, for lack of a better term, not only does the company lose money, not necessarily just like make less money, but lose money. You can potentially go out to a job and not make anything because your motivation's so low. That hurts the company overall. And a company is just a group of people, right? I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a person that's up above bringing in all this money and telling plebs to do work for me. I'm trying to, get my neighbors taken care of with heating, cooling, and electrical services. And we've got to do that in a productive fashion in order to stay a company. Otherwise, we just have to go work for one of the other ones. And if that means that I have to stay in the field to make that happen, then that's fine, whatever. But I'm trying to surround myself with employees such as John that do those things, that go above and beyond, because that's not necessarily an expectation of the role, but they know that will benefit all of us in the end. I would like everybody in my company to be able to retire someday. That's one of those things that those guys who've been doing it for forever, aren't going to do. They're going to work until they're 68 and then they die because that's all they've known.
And I've honestly, my journeyman is dead.
Yeah.
And he worked into the field to the day of. I mean, I've seen guys who can barely walk.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna point any fingers and say why. I don't. Everybody, there are people who stay in the field for a long period of time, not because of any, but because they like doing what they're
That's
doing.
fine too.
And that's
if you like it, then do it.
I'm not talking down about anybody who spends their whole life in the field, because if that's what you like doing and that's what you're comfortable doing, awesome. But
I've also seen people that are perfectly content being apprentices or helpers on the job site, that don't ever want the responsibility of being the lead. They've made it to the point where they're lead quality. They could be the journeyman or the foreman or whatever, and they produce a high quality end product in a timely fashion, but have no interest in it. They don't even want to be in charge of the job site. They don't want to be responsible for making that decision. They'd rather go there with a veteran that can make that call for them, and then they just do the thing and go home. And that's fine too, if that's where you want to be, right?
I don't like that. I'm going to kindly disagree with that one.
But I mean, like, what if they don't have a desire to be a manager, to be the journeyman? They don't want to be that someday. They're perfectly content with their $24 an hour and coming in, doing their job correctly, efficiently, and then going home. I don't see a problem with that.
Think that I don't know. I think I need to think more on that. But I guess the foundation of my opinion on that is that, there's so few people out there that are leadership quality, that if you are, I just feel like the industry needs that, right? Like I do. I feel like if you have that quality, there's almost a responsibility, right? Like, we're a company, we're trying to make money. Like, I need every leader I can get, and they're so far and few in between. Guys that step up and say, let's get this done. Let me help you. For a guy that knows how to run a job and do a job and get it done efficiently, to hand those reins over to somebody else because he doesn't feel like it, is frustrating for me, because it's like, I need you. I guess that's my like off the cuff opinion on that. So I get it. I know I'm all for people living their life the way I want to. That makes them happy. But I feel like also, if you're in the industry and this is your career, like, there is a little bit of responsibility to be the adult in the room sometimes. So
I feel like due to everybody else's specific due to everybody's specific circumstances, their upbringings, the lives that they lived before they became employees at a company, their home life, that they might not want that additional stress as well. There's a lot of head and heart thought that goes into being in a management position. If you care about it, you can't just be the douchebag that sits behind a desk and why number not go up, right? But there's so many people out there that have different circumstances than me for me to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, especially if the way that you're living brings you contentment. I'm talking about people that have worked at places content for years. Don't complain. They don't come in, they might be like, yesterday's job sucked, but they won't be like, Randy sucks, like he's a bad manager, or can you believe what so-and-so said? Like they're no drama. They just come in, they want to work. They're there every day with a smile on their face and a coffee in their hand. And then they go do the thing, and they're the first ones back to the shop because they went out and did every lead is asking to have this guy as their helper that day.
Yeah.
Because they're good to be around and they do a good job, but they don't want to be in charge of people. And if you don't want to be, you're probably going to suck at it.
Yeah, that I do understand, and I've actually, there are people that come to mind of people who were like low key leaders. Like they were guys that were not the lead on site, but they were the lead on site.
Yeah.
And I would fire the guy that was working
in charge of them.
Yeah. because long before, and I would take their advice over, but on paper, the other guy was the lead. I've seen that too, so I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I get that.
Yeah.
I think it's valid.
It's tough to make broad statements when everything's so individual.
Yeah, I mean, every situation
You're dealing with
changes a little
people,
bit.
not systems. You're trying to put systems in place above people. All right. Well, we're about halfway through our episode here. So before we get into our topic, we have our first sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Breezy, the all-in-one app to simplify how service businesses run day to day. Breezy handles scheduling, dispatching, estimates, invoices, and customer communication in one clean platform. No juggling apps, no messy workarounds, just straightforward tools designed for contractors in the real world. If admin work is slowing you down or keeping you off the job site longer than it should, Breezy is worth checking out. Try Breezy today and get a $100 Amazon gift card when you sign up. The link is in the episode description. Thanks, Breezy, for sponsoring this episode. All right. Do you want to announce how did they offered? I told them we've got a YouTube channel and a podcast.
Really?
And I said, is there anything you want to do? And they were like, hey, yeah, try this. So yeah, you hit that link and
Just give me some coffee.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a coffee sponsor, I'll put a sign back here and a coffee maker if you want. We'll get there. But yeah, no, thanks to Breezy for that. We appreciate the sponsorship. What's today's topic, John?
Oh God.
Oh God.
I was ready a minute ago. Okay. Would you choose the trades if you were 18 again?
100% yes. Episode over.
I feel like you're a liar.
It's that's a tough one because even when I first started in the trades, I was like, this isn't for me, right? I started when I was 17. And the first job that I was ever on once I turned 18 was in a crawl space. I was surrounded by those house centipedes. They're like little monsters. And we were pulling a thermostat wire. They needed a skinny kid to go down in the crawl and grab the thermostat wire to pull it over. And I'm laying there in this tight little crawl space, and there's a drill bit coming down at me. And I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And here I am 2 decades later. Whoops.
How did that happen?
How did I stay in the field? Money, I think, right? I'm good at it. I'm predisposed to this type of work, right? And we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, is that I have a predisposition to working with my hands. I have good visual spatial skills. I have good mechanical reasoning skills. So like it was this or working on cars or working on small engines or something like that. I was going to work in some sort of field that required my hands. I was never a student. I am very good with computers, but not the type of person to do like programming. Vibe coding is like the coolest thing ever because I can describe an app and it'll do a lot of the coding for me, right? I'm not the type of person to understand an entire new language called JavaScript. And I know enough about it to help program a Minecraft server. And put in like resource packs or like help my grandmother print something. But I'm not the type of person to like deal with customer service on their computer over the phone or work on servers for big companies. I have a home lab at home, but I'm glad that I didn't end up trying to make that my career for money. I remember I started at Baker College to do computer sciences and I hated it. I didn't like it at all. And I realized that if I was going to feel this way just studying to become that thing, I was going to hate the thing too. Versus I didn't mind going to work. I was very much the person we were describing a minute ago that enjoyed being at work. I was still, a young kid that overslept and, didn't fully appreciate it at the time. But overall, I spent 7 years at the first company I ever worked for, working my way through the ranks up till I was a lead installer and service technician before I left there to be a service technician for another company. The only reason I left was to further my career, get a raise, and learn more. So I would say that I like no regrets is where I am with that. That being said, it doesn't mean it was easy. And I'd be lying if I said that I hadn't thought about like what it would be like to do something else. I really wanted to work for the FBI for a long time in like the cybersecurity division. That was part of why I wanted to.
It's very weird.
You think so?
No, it's what's weird about it is that was same.
Yeah.
That's what I went to. That's what I started.
Yeah. When I first went to Mott at, like 18, 19, right after I graduated high school, I started going into criminal justice, because I saw like Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, tracking down pedophiles. And I grew up in the age of chat rooms, right? So it was ASL, and then there's creepy people in there. And all I could think is, if I could find these people, it'd be so cool to beat the crap out of them. I mean, take them to jail and prosecute them. And I did my senior project, my career project on becoming potentially an FBI officer and doing that sort of thing in the cybercrimes division. Instead, I did vigilante justice and reported everything to cyber angels. So I learned a lot of like, I don't want to say hacking skills, but like white hat type, like how to get somebody else's IP address and then how to turn that into an address and things like that, so that I could give all that information to somebody who was capable of doing the rest. Because I couldn't do anything else. So like I really enjoyed that. That was something that brought me joy, but I'm glad that I didn't pursue that any further. I think that type of stress, like we talked about a little bit in the last episode, how like certain careers, like my wife is a psychologist, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I think that I would, if I was a social worker, I would have a hard time maintaining professionalism in some circumstances. I would have a hard time not being overly empathetic with some of the situations that humans put other humans in, to the point where I don't know if I'd actually be able to emotionally handle that type of job.
Just lose your thread on the logic piece of
yeah
that.
yeah I'd probably, it already blows my mind that people can hurt each other in some of the ways that we do. And then for me to also be the person who puts myself into situations where I'm trying to stop that from happening, that probably would destroy me emotionally. And I was not the most emotionally intelligent person in my early 20s either. So I'm probably pretty lucky I didn't go into that. What about you? Are you glad you went into the trades?
Yeah, honestly, I started my apprenticeship at 28, which is took much longer to find, and then it's amazing. I think 18, 19 years old, I was doing the same thing. I went to Mott. I was looking to get in. Cybersecurity was mine. Same thing, almost the exact same story.
What we were told we were
This is
supposed
the
to
first
get
time
into.
I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
I did that for a little while. I love computers. I really struggled to get through the whole, like, this is Microsoft Word. I fucking know how to do most of this already, but
Can I test out of this, please?
right.
This is a keyboard.
Somewhere along the way, in the first year, my stepdad worked in the shops, and he was very much an advocate for find a trade, right? So I changed my major to heating and cooling.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started going to school for heating and cooling.
Okay.
I did not care for Mott's teacher there.
Who was it?
I believe his last name was Hayward.
Okay.
And he had a test where he went through the operations, right, of the heating and cooling, like temperature hits this, thermostat calls for this, this solenoid opens, that thing happens, and he said, I can't remember. Anyways, I swapped two, right? It was like a different, like an open and close difference. And he failed me for all 14 steps. Like I got all of them right, except for I had swapped these two. And I got like a C in that class. Like I was pissed because, like he said right at the beginning of the class, like you're in my class, it's going to be hard. You're probably only going to have a C. And like, or he said something to that nature. Like, you're only going, the highest grade in the year is going to be like a B minus. And I'm like, even at the time, I was like, it's kind of fucked up. I was like, so
Imagine
you're
getting
telling me
everything
you
right.
suck, and no matter how much well I do, I'm probably, even if I'm the best in the class, I'm still going to get a B. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So, um, so I digress. Yeah, I did an electrical class there, which I enjoyed the electrical class. But while I was going to school there, my ex-wife got pregnant, and I had to be a dad. So
That'll do it.
yeah, so I basically, I was working at the IMA, making ice and setting up for events. The hours were insane. I'd work till like 2 in the morning, and then I'd sometimes, I'd get 30 hours a week. Sometimes I'd get 80 hours a week, just depending on the events that were going on. And I I decided this is not going to work. I have to get a big boy job, and I have to make consistent money, even if it's, So I went and I worked. So I basically dropped out of college, and I started working in the shops. And then I did that till my son was probably 2 or 3, and I was simultaneously getting divorced. And I
So
decided,
you basically had nothing going on.
yeah, I decided I hated the shops. I hated the politics in the shops. I enjoyed like the mechanical, like I always had a mechanical personality. So like
Mhm.
I was always mechanically inclined.
Only like a C, though.
Yeah,
C
but only
plus,
as, yeah, yeah.
not like an A or a B.
No,
Yeah.
no. I was taking the first thing I could find. And a buddy of mine, Don, was working in a supply house, and he said, hey, they're looking for apprentice electricians. Um, and this guy came in, and here's his information. And I called him, and I just took the first job I could get out of the shop, and it happened to be as an apprentice electrician. And honestly, the rest is history. I when I was a kid, I loved Connects. I loved Legos. I liked erector sets. I loved to build. I liked to pull things apart. Like, building has always been like something that I liked and I was passionate about.
Mhm.
And the fact that I didn't find the trades at an earlier age is amazing to me. When you know what, honestly, it kind of pisses me off, because the schools treat the trades like something that stupid people do
Mhm.
when they can't do school.
They are. I'll put this out there too. They are doing better with that. Um,
Yeah, because college costs
Well,
$150,000.
and we're missing out on having technicians. We've got people retiring from the trades and nobody replaced them. I mean, not only is it going to get more expensive because there's going to be a higher demand, there's going to be less people to do it, and there's more homes going up, but less technicians to work on them. So
Yeah,
your price is going to go up. But we don't need all of those careers that we used to have 20 years ago.
yep.
There's degrees that don't mean anything anymore because the world's evolving so quickly. And that's not me telling you don't go to college if you want to go to college. My wife has her master's degree and it's extremely beneficial for her. She's a
Sure.
psychologist. Like, that's such a
And
requirement, right?
I'm not saying that there's no value in
I
college. I
don't
just,
think that she would necessarily be bad at the trades, but she's definitely not predisposed to it, right? But then there's kids that, again, wanted to work with their hands. We've gotten rid of shop classes. We've gotten rid of the woodworking classes. We do have like the local skill center, the GISD has like a carpentry and building class, and they've got electrical trades class. I took commercial electric when I was in high school. And that was a good opportunity, but we don't put enough money into that,
Mhm.
which we should, because not everybody's going to be an English teacher someday. Not everybody's going to be a mathematician. And while it's important to learn your basic math skills and stuff, once you get up into calculus, we're talking about career specific mathematics, right? And if you aren't predisposed to that, okay, you don't need to know it for whatever it is you want to do with your life. But we need to offer all of the opportunities, not just the ones that people with degrees think are important.
Yeah.
So we got to bring in people from different walks of life. And I think that mechanical skills and abilities, shop classes, electrical training, HVAC. There are things that this job's not going away anytime soon. Neither is yours
Yep.
until they build robots that can pull wires, or you can just 3D print houses with wires in them that the robots put in. I don't see our jobs going away. Even then, we still got old electrical systems that
You
need to be
still have to
worked
be
on.
able to fix the
And
ones
we're
that
just talking
break.
about residential. We need linemen. We need people to build the transformers. We need people to design and lay out these electrical grid systems, especially with all the changes that are going on with electrical in application. We're talking about windmills and solar and batteries and stuff that we didn't have on the grid before. Now we need to integrate all that stuff. We've got smart meters and just a lot of changes in the industry. I have modulating equipment. You used to just turn your furnace on with a dial and a mercury bulb inside of it, and the furnace turned on when it got cold and it turned off when it got hot. There was like a 4 to 6 degree temperature swing between those two switches on and off. Um, and now equipment can keep your home like within half a degree of the set temperature. That's insane that we've made equipment that can do all that. But you also have to have technicians that can work on all that. And the people that worked on the mercury bulb switches didn't always want to learn how to work on modulating gas valves and use combustion analyzers and things like that. It's a new trade. It's a new day in our fields. And there's a lot to be learned. And if on the job training is the only way to get that, then we are in a serious pickle.
I agree. Yeah. So, anyways, no, if I had
No
gone back to
regrets.
18, I would have started a hell of a lot sooner than
Yep.
I did. Yeah, for me
Yeah.
personally,
Same.
I just,
Yeah. I feel very blessed that I ended up with the career that I have.
yep. And the computer skills I did have, or I do have done nothing but benefit me in my career.
Mm.
I mean, I did, like I said, I did business development for 4 or 5 years, and my ability to operate a spreadsheet, um, uh, being comfortable with software has helped me tremendously as
Mhm.
well. So all those skills can come together, whatever you're good at. And this is what I always tell, because I was in a home the other day, and a homeowner was asking me about the trades for their daughter as a career path.
Mhm.
And I sold it because, I personally believe that it's a good way to go. But I guess at the end of the day, what I advocate, what I advocate for people is do anything that you're passionate about. Anything, because mine did start with Legos. Mine did start with pulling things apart. Mine at a foundational level was what I was good at and what I enjoyed.
Mhm.
And if you find that thing, if you're good with working with animals and you like working with animals, go do that.
Mhm. You
Um,
don't necessarily have to be a veterinarian to work with
no,
animals either.
and you
There's
can start there and learn from a veterinarian. I
Mhm.
I really think the apprenticeship model is should be applied in more cases than
Mhm.
it is. Because I think people who are passionate start there
Yeah.
and they go further.
Learn from a master, read
It's
a book.
instead of getting somebody who sits in a classroom for however many years and comes out and is expected to do the thing that somebody who may have more would have been better to have built that up over time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that a lot of the theory and stuff gets lost on kids who don't get to see it in practice. Don't get to see it in the field, especially with the HVAC. You can know a lot about thermodynamics and not understand why the fourth burner is not lighting, like, or you know a lot about phases in electricity, but not understand that the ground is the problem of a furnace, and that's why the flame sensor is giving you a code, right? Like the unit needs to be properly grounded. They might know that or and not know how to figure that out. That's a applied practice thing where you're not going to know those things until you see them in the field. And that's honestly, it's an issue I've had with technicians in the past. They think they're dumb because they don't know how to solve a problem immediately. But that's the whole reason I'm here, right? Is so you can call me and say, "Hey, have you ever run into this before?" And if I haven't, then I've got somebody that I can call. I have multiple people that I can call because I've built up my relationships throughout the industry. Last night I had a customer call and ask if we work on oil furnaces. I know how to work on oil furnaces, but I don't have any of the tools. I don't have any of the I don't have smoke membranes. Um I don't have the nozzles, I don't have the electrodes, I don't have the spacer, I don't have a kit to prime the pump. So I had to tell him no, I'm not going to come out there and take a look at it because I am not tooled for it, right? I have experience with it. Me and one other tech were the only ones that worked on oil at Davison Heating and Cooling when I worked there, and I guarantee I could figure it out. It's been a few years, but I had to tell him, no, you need to find somebody more capable. And he said, well, nobody really works on these anymore. Do you know anybody that would come out? And I said, well, normally I recommend Warren Systems over in Lapeer. They have techs over there that know how to work on oil. I said, but you're in Chesaning. I don't know what their service area is. We're talking about an hour drive from one to the other. So let me reach out to a couple people and see if I can find somebody. And then Mauer Heating and Cooling out of Owasso apparently works on oil. I reached out to my rep from one of my distributors. I said, do you know anybody that works on oil near Chesaning? And he shot over Mauer Heating and Cooling, and shout out to Mauer for having an oil technician. I don't know if they made it over there or whatever, but I texted that customer and they said, thank you for figuring that out for us. I tried my best to solve the problem, even though it wasn't going to make me any money, because they deserve heat too. We learn from the people around us, and there's plenty of work to go around. There's plenty of people who have the skills and abilities that we can lean on, the networking that we've established over the years, that we can use those relationships to help people even more, ourselves or others. Learn from each other. You don't have to pay money for it.
Yeah. I think touching on that a little bit though, I feel like confidence is a real problem in the field. There's so many guys I know that because they can't do something, they think they're stupid.
Yeah, I don't know anything about boilers. Well, yeah, not yet. You just started working on them.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like you can like I didn't. Nobody learns anything the first time it's ever done. Like you gotta work through it.
I've got one technician who has grown tremendously, specifically with boilers, and he at first was very well, I don't know how to work on those. Well, I need somebody other than me to be able to. So I'm going to need you to come out with me on all these. And then I started eventually being able to send him on tune-ups by himself. And I started eventually being able to send him on repairs by himself. And they weren't always perfect. There was a couple times that like one of them, he put the thing back together after a tune-up and pinched a wire. And then, oh no, I'm just not so confident with boilers. I'm like, you could have pinched a wire on a regular furnace too. It's not like this is a boiler specific problem. The igniter wire got stuck between two pieces of metal, and that's why it wasn't lighting. It wasn't because it's a boiler. It's because you didn't put it through the little grommet hole where it's supposed to go. Now you won't ever do that again, right?
Right.
You can misdiagnose things on furnaces too. It had nothing to do with this big overarching thing of boilers, right? Just because something's foreign to you does not mean that it's insurmountable. You've got the mechanical predisposition to learn these things. When it comes to a forced air system, you can do it on a geothermal system, you can do it on oil, or you can do it on boilers. There's a lot of stuff that takes nuance too. There's things that I've learned in the field that took me a few tries, that I didn't get it at first. And like sometimes it's like, this is just the way we do it until I figure out why it's the way we do it, right? I know that it's important to do X, but I didn't understand why it was important to do X until later, and that's the apprenticeship to master learning levels there.
That's how I feel about solar right now.
Yeah.
I've been in close enough proximity to solar projects that like I've got a good understanding of how they're put together on paper. But there's a lot of like weird ins and outs, and a lot of it has to do with the like red tape, utility companies, and it's not as cut and dry math.
Just slap some panels up on the roof and it makes power, and that's it.
Yeah. How many panels?
Yeah, as
Also,
many as you
yeah,
can fit up there, no matter
yeah,
what, right?
that's right. Also, are there trees around? Do you get sun all
Ah, just chop
day?
them down.
Yeah, it's
Do you get subtle light? Not in Michigan.
yeah, it's also the power companies. I don't think like the loss of revenue. Even though I don't know. It seems like they really don't want to pay. So like you have to in order to get the approvals, and
I think it's dumb that we have power companies.
I would love to develop to find like a developer that was all about creating like a, what do you call it, like a neighborhood that does just like self-sustaining
Mhm.
energy. Like,
Yeah.
let's just make affordable housing where
One windmill right in the center of
people are
town.
off the grid. But I feel like the politics behind that would really prevent that.
Oh, yeah, for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh yeah, well, awesome. We made cheap housing that also doesn't generate any revenue for the power systems. Like everybody's going to be behind that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that money
Create a
goes the way it
commune.
does. Yeah,
Yeah. You have to be tied to the grid. Otherwise, you're a terrorist.
that's right.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having like an off-grid cabin or something like that. Sometimes I just wish I lived in a van, like
Mhm.
I could totally see myself as like that old hippie down by the river, like,
Mhm.
living in a van.
Down by the river.
But yeah, I don't know. I like building a cabin that's basically a shed with a bed in it, it
Yeah.
sounds super appealing to me.
There was one building. Honestly, that I think the government incentives were what were driving this project. I can't swear to that because I wasn't part of those conversations, but I had been asked to bid a project that was happening in Lansing where the entire building was the goal was to be self-sustaining.
Mhm.
So it was like a warehouse, and they had built these duplex buildings, like basically unit on the bottom, unit on the top,
Okay.
and it was inside of this warehouse. So there was, when you stepped out, there was like a concourse, there was a walkway around this building. And I guess underneath the building, there was like these tunnels that they were going to use for catching rainwater
Mm.
to bring down in. All the heat pumps were basically, I mean, they drew basically nothing.
Is it geothermal?
It wasn't geothermal. I believe they were heat pumps, but I think because it was inside of the building,
Mm.
there was that layer of insulation that basically was the outside air inside the warehouse.
Hmm.
Um, and then they were putting solar panels on top. I believe they were talking about a battery system that was going to store that power and then, basically release it when I'd love to go out. I'd love to go out there at some point because they were having all kinds of trouble with the engineer. And even when I left the project, I kept explaining to the engineer, like, this is not how power is calculated. Just so they were using like 250 MCM feeders for like 600 amp panels. And I'm like, I don't think the inspector's going to approve this. Like, I feel like the building inspector's going to have an issue with the way this is calculated, but who the fuck am I?
Right.
So I don't have an engineering degree.
Yeah.
I've only been in the field for a decade, but they don't care. So I was basically told to mind my own fucking business. And I said, okay, well,
Good luck.
this project now, it costs $500,000. I'm making up numbers at this point. This part of the project is going to be $500,000. But I knew in reality that part of the project, if they made us upsize those feeders, it's going to be more like $1 million.
Wow.
Investors are going to have to eat that turd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sorry, but you can only raise a flag so many times.
Right. Yeah,
the
you make
engineer
your
says
case.
so.
Okay.
What the
Yep.
engineer says.
I've had to put in writing on plenty of invoices, like, I do not believe that this is going to adequately serve the space. I believe that the heat load is too high and that the system will not perform adequately. There's also not enough airflow and blah, blah, blah. Customer approving this estimate does not mean that I guarantee it's the efficacy of the system or whatever, because they were so adamant that this is what they wanted. And I'll say maybe 75% of the time I'm right. Sometimes I've been proven wrong, and I can admit that, or at least they didn't call me back to complain about it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
So it's, I don't know. I legitimately think that building, if they build it the way it was on paper, things are just going to blow up. But
those are basically just really long
here's
fuses.
this distribution panel that has 14 houses on it, and it's only a 400 amp distribution center. I'm like, no.
Yeah, but it's direct current, right?
They didn't draw a lot of power, so I mean there was that, and I felt like one of the guys who was my mentor there was like trying to talk me off the ledge, like I don't think so. Like I've never seen this, and all the building calculations we've done, like this seems like they're like drastically undersized,
Mm-hmm.
Because the way you calculate multifamily buildings is so depending on the number of units that are on. So if you have a panel that has 14 units on it, there's like a derating that happens there. So you're not, if it's 10,000 watts is what adds up in the calculation, you're only applying like 40%, right?
Because not everything's going to be on all the time.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So there's a little bit of like 6-7 to it, right? Yeah. I'm done.
Yeah. Well, we are at the end of our episode. Do you have any final thoughts or anything?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, I think it's been a good episode.
Yeah.
Well, we had everybody here. Thanks again to our first sponsor, Breezy, and our coffee sponsor, Big Apple Bagels in Davison. Thank you, Pam. I love you.
Design on your cup.
Because mine was a latte.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. So fancy
cup. Brewster's coffee. You got the cheap, bland old coffee, cinnamon swirl flavored.
I don't like it.
You know?
No, I like the coffee.
Okay.
I don't like that
I picked it. I didn't give you the hazelnut this time. That's what I got you last week.
I want a Big Apple on my cup.
Oh, here. Mine's empty.
No.
Pour it in there.
It's mine now.
Okay. Well, again, thanks to our episode sponsor, Get Breezy. Check them out. The link is in the episode description, or getbreezyapp.com. This has been Current Comfort and Coffee, the podcast. Feel free to comment, like, share, talk shit, whatever you want to do, and we'll be here same time next week. Peace.
Did you just fart? Oh, it was your belly.
We got that right at the end of the episode. Did you just fart?